Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I just wanted to come back off the reading that I did yesterday, the tarot reading that I did for the energies that were coming up around us and within us. And I wanted to hook in on two cards just quickly because they were coming through very powerfully, and I don't know if it was conveyed fully as to what keeps us in this loop of pain, what keeps us in this conditioned loop of pain. A lot of the pains would be very minimized or non-existent if there wasn't a few infusing it continuously into the collective, and the collective absorbing it and going with it. And it's the Three of Swords and the Ten of Swords. So the Ten of Swords is like a cycle end. You can see this person is just down, flat, facing the ground, and all of these swords that represent words, thoughts, labels, all the consciousness, the words before they're formed in the womb of the mouth and released, all of those things that is represented by the sword. The truth is represented by the sword, and also a lie, because it's just the spoken word, and all of the actions that come around that can cause both physical, emotional, and mental wounds. So you're just down, and you can see there's a sword in all the vertebrae, all the way up the spine in this person. The red is there's been a sacrifice, and I see the red here in the lower chakra as these words have infiltrated the root of this person or the root of this collective in the way that they have made them see themselves, made them be rooted in the thought of what is acceptable to them and what is acceptable behavior to give out and accept in. And obviously this is a very painful root, in that it's not knowing thyself very much at all, because these swords have well and truly been absorbed into the being, into the consciousness, into the thought pattern of this person. And then the Three of Swords, and you can see that's descriptive in itself. It's the words that affect the heart chakra, that sort of stop you in your stride, shock you, and the physical pain that they cause. You can feel that pain, that heartache, when certain situations come up. But this is a repetitive cycle that we keep finding ourselves in. And what would it take for us, when I'm saying to let go of this pain, to what kind of questions do you pose to yourself to start the process of remapping that thought process and then using that pain for strength? So often with the Ten of Swords and the Three of Swords, you're talking about betrayal. And it's not actually even the wounds or the things that have collapsed into or out of your life since certain actions and words were spoken. It's more about looking up beyond all of the chaos that is caused by those swords and seeing who threw the swords. It's the fear of bearing witness to the betrayal being a very harsh emotion to feel and get over. To look into the eyes of loved ones, but then also to pay tithe to MPs and constituents and senators and all of the different labels that they give these leaders, giving such a level of trust to them, and actually looking beyond the conditioned cycle that they're in and seeing that the people who are supposed to be for them are the ones more often throwing the swords one way or the other, creating thought processes. So it's to get ready and brace yourself for accepting that betrayal, submitting to seeing it in its full, disfigured, dismembered, detached self, And that takes being able to feel the pain of betrayal with the Three of Swords. That is often what keeps people in this repetitive loop of control and conditioning in their own lives, and wider and wider up and down the spiral of the systems that we live under. It's easier after so long and being conditioned for so long, down to even the history that we're taught, that would take us looking up, and before we see ourselves in our true form, with this red cloak on the root chakra here of this person lying face flat, before we can see a more organic self, we have to look up at the betrayal and be able and ready to feel the pain. To know that this too shall pass. It passes over you if you let it. What's happening is a lot of people are getting into this Three of Swords and so terrified of looking up beyond, turning around from the ground and looking up to see who put them there and why. Because then that opens up the questions of, why did I find that acceptable for me? What part of me have I not been honoring that would keep me in this cycle? So that's one of the energies that were coming up yesterday, very powerfully, from the micro to the macro, of what it would take to truly get out of this cycle, to truly power on and use that pain for their greatness, as I preached so easily yesterday in that tower reading. The underpinning of that reading was this. The depth of that reading was this. What would it really take to look beyond that pain and sit in that pain for long enough to see the truth of that pain and the source of that pain for long enough to then be able to see beyond this 10 cycle and into a new, rooted in a different self, or rooted in a knowing thyself energy. That's one of the energies. The other one is distraction. That is the loop. That is the thing that ties these cycles into a circle, into a loop. The want and will to distract from that pain is so intense at times. It's so much easier to give in to that will of distraction. If you look at the powers that be that use these manners of control, I'll just turn that off, manners of control and manners of conditioning, tactics, they have done everything possible to distract, to cause short-term memory, the quick scrolly apps, the videos, the things that are pushed, that cause such distraction, that give and offer up such distraction from people. And so that's like sweets to a child, you know. It's like, come and just sit in this distraction. You can smile, you can laugh, you can be happy on the outside. As long as you're looking like you're being distracted, then you don't have to return to that pain. You don't have to sit in it. You don't have to dwell in its space and question self in it. We can distract you through this way, that way, this way. It's so easy. So the temptation is to go down the easy path and find things that resonate with that pain, but are a distraction from the organic source of that pain. And at that point, you are so easily conditioned in a similar cycle, because you've gone seeking the same energies, but not with any resolve, not with any preaching or teaching that would tell you how to lift up beyond this 10 cycle. So the distraction is intense, and you see that, and they're really pushing the distraction. It's one of the most powerful weapons that they have right now. And the other one I wrote down after that reading was the car crash observers, those that can't help but talk about their pain in a way that it's all they can talk about. If you're talking about puppies, they'll find a way to relate something so benign to something so horrific that happened to them 10, 15, 20 years ago. Again, not with any moral to the story or any kind of resolve, but with a just continuing loop, a broken record, so to speak. They're car crash observers, and they want to drag you into observing it too. They keep running their minds through time into their past to stand there as an observer and relive through their words and their reenactments the exact pain that they felt. They never go beyond that cycle of pain because they always want to run back to it. And they want to drag other people into that. And we all know those people who can turn anything around, not with a lesson to the story, but with a, let's get back to this pain. Let's get back to this pain. Why? Because if they can find something or somebody that will resonate with that pain, it validates the fact that they are victim to it, that it was real, forgetting often that it's not even real in their lives anymore, but they keep reliving it day in, day out, reenacting it. These are the car crash observers of their own lives. We do this on a wider scale when we're talking about tragic stories. And we revisit them only to talk about the tragedy of them, not about the stitching of all of the lives that touch that tragedy on the outside and the before and after, and finding a way for that tragedy to not happen again in that same way. It is just to revisit and rehash the painful point, the painful moment. Very rarely looking at the people who got up after that tragedy and got on with their lives and made a success of their lives in a different direction. Using that pain in a way to not repeat that tragedy again. And there's a very clear difference of energies in people when they're using it for the greatness, but are able to allow it to put them in a different direction from it. And those that are using that very same energy, that very same pain or tragedy, but using it with the intent of staying in it, of time capsuling themselves into this moment of tragedy. So then when our governments, when our leaders, when the puppets are doing such awful things, causing such huge tragedies, hurting so many people, we get engaged with it, yes. But we very easy as a collective get stuck in not moving past the resolve to make sure it doesn't happen anymore or cannot happen anymore. We stay very easily in that cycle, within this cycle of 10, rather than cycling out of it into the next, to try something different, to have a goal, not even have all the answers, but just to have a goal at something that wouldn't cause this particular cycle again. So this is this repeat, re-loop, re-rinse, rehash energy that was coming up yesterday. So anyway, I hope that's helped. I hope that it's deep, it's heavy, yes, but so liberating if you can hear it and see it for what wisdom was coming through it. But for those that, again, are not ready to do that, this video might prick them a bit. This video might make them a bit salty because there's such a drive to stay in these same loops. Wholeness, much love. balance and wholeness. I love you all. Have fun with it, even when you're witnessing people insisting on staying in this. It's difficult. Go in the other direction and have fun. Nothing you can do. They're willingly drowning at this point. Much love. Mwah. Heavy.